This is Dumbed Down Life number 32.
Good evening, everybody. This is Dumbed Down Life number 32, and we've got an extra person tonight. We've got 4 presenters. Hello, Darren.
Hello.
Hello, Doug.
Hello, Lance.
And hello, Ben.
Hello.
Right.
So, does this mean that like presenters on this show are like buses? You wait for ages, and then all of a sudden 2 turn up at once.
That's pretty much right. Yeah. You may remember Ben from such shows as Dumbed Down Life number 5, and the and the interview we did a few weeks ago about the Imagined Cup, which is something we'll cover later on. Now, picking up on a story that we did a few weeks ago, it was Doug's story about the Google Street View. There was a big controversy about Street View coming to England and the privacy rules, and there was some guy that was taking Google to court over these privacy issues. Well, it appears that he's failed. And
good.
Yeah, yay. I thought we might all say that, because the consensus of the discussion was that it really shouldn't matter. It appears that Google have stated that they'll be using blurring technology for the faces and for the number plates. So the UK law lords have deemed it quite acceptable, and it won't infringe on any personal privacy issues.
Well, it's about damn time our law lords did something sensible, silly old buggers.
I mean, in fairness, it shouldn't be too much of an issue. People already put their personal information on the internet, and you're going to get far less from just seeing someone in Street View in Google than you are from looking at their website or their blog or something. And, I mean, there's pictures of me all over the internet, so I'm not really too bothered about that.
Yeah, but I don't visit those kind of sites.
Know about that.
Yeah, I don't visit those kind of sites, Ben.
What we were saying the other week, though, Ben, was that for prospective house cat burglars, thieves or whatever, they could go and have a look around a particular estate and see, well, okay, the security on that building doesn't look that great. Which might be a little bit easier than physically walking around the street and looking conspicuous.
I suppose you could, I don't know, send a robot to do that for you anyway, or something.
You could send a robot, like a Terminator.
I mean, I'm not really sure that Street View's quite that accurate, is it? I mean, certainly... although I don't know. I mean, having said that, thinking about it, looking at the front of my apartment complex, you can't actually go inside because it's private property, but you can look at the front, and it does give quite a bit of detail, so maybe you could do that.
Well,
it gave enough detail for me to be able to read the menu in the front of a little sandwich shop out in San Francisco, so it could give somebody the idea of, well, it's got this particular sort of a lock, or it's got French windows down the side which are easy to open, or whatever, but...
Yeah, but I mean, here's my point. Private property, they don't photograph private property without the owner's permission. It's only public access property, and if it's public access property anyway, people can just walk up and do that. They don't need Street View to do it.
No, but you can do it from the comfort of your own home, can't you?
Yeah, if you're a lazy burglar.
There are certain things that real life can do in this instance that the internet can't, because with Google Street View you can go on, you can look at the front of a house, but only in real life can you set yourself up in a tree with a pair of binoculars and peer through the house's windows.
And you know that from experience, do you?
One is worldly wise.
There was something I was going to say. Talk amongst yourselves. I'll find the bit that I wanted.
Have they put any kind of timeline as to when it's going to go live? Because I know that the cameras have already been going around, haven't they?
Yeah, no, they haven't.
And where are they starting?
Where are they starting?
Yes.
I would imagine London. There is a website somewhere. I can't remember it. I'll try and find it and put it in the show notes. But there is a website that uses Google Maps, not Street View, just the Google Maps. And there's images of where people have seen the Google Maps car, the Street View cars. Obviously, there's...
Well, I hope that when they put those images up, they've blurred out the number plate.
And the driver's face.
No, there is quite a few...
You're probably safest in London, in fairness, because no Google van driver is going to want to go around and pay the congestion charge to actually take these images in the first place.
Now, there have been quite a few spotted in London, basically the major cities. I know there's been a few up in Nottingham and a few in Manchester. So it looks like they're doing all the major cities first, and will probably spread out to the larger towns later on. But there isn't a date set, not according to this story anyway, there isn't a date set that when they will be going live. But one of the defences that they actually used was the fact that the delay between the Google cars going out and taking the photos and them actually appearing on the website, and this runs sort of true to how they've been doing it in the States, there's no way that you can use it to track people.
So, no, and see when they're on holiday and stuff like that. No, absolutely not.
So that part of the privacy thing fell down there because there just happened to be people out on the streets, and it could be 6 months before those images appear on the Street View.
Was that really one of his arguments, that you could track somebody with this thing?
I believe so, yeah. You can say, oh, this person should have been so-and-so, and he should have been at work or whatever, and he wasn't. But there's no way of telling the actual time when the photo was taken. There's, so there is this huge delay between when they're taken and when they actually go live. So it's essentially just a nonsense, really.
Hey, maybe America could use it to find Osama bin Laden, because they've not had any success any other way so far.
Well, they did try that with who's the pilot guy that disappeared? Burt Rutan's mate.
Oh yeah. I know who you mean. I can't think of his name though.
Can't think. He took off somewhere in
never came
Nevada,
back.
and they were trying to use the Google Maps images, the latest images that they had of that day, and they sort of sent them out to loads of people, and they were scouring over these images to try and find the plane, and they never did. But yeah, so just a bit of an update there. They are actually going to be allowed to do it. So I'm quite looking forward to that, actually.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's good because it would have set a ridiculous precedent if they'd have said, no, you can't do it.
Well, it's like we said earlier. I mean, if they can't do it, then your images that go up on Facebook or the photos you put up on LiveJournal or any sort of blog site that uses advertising to gain revenue, essentially they are using your photos for profit, not directly but indirectly. So they would fall foul of these as well. So it'd sort of instantaneously pretty much kill the social networking.
I'm not sure that would be a bad thing, though. I have to say.
Lance, it was Steve Fawcett.
That's it, Steve Fawcett.
Oh, well done, Darren.
Yep, I remembered that all by myself.
Did you really? Or did somebody in the chat room tell you?
No, not reading the chat room.
I can't see Steve Fawcett's name written in capital letters with 3 exclamation marks after it at all.
So who was it? Who told us?
Thank you, Leonie.
Yeah, thank you, Leonie.
Boogie Woogie. Said your money's almost gone. You cry complaining and you moan. You miss a boat 'cause you too old. Either tired or it's too cold. Never blame yourself, it's always me. Like a blind man you just can't see. The side of you we lead a room. All you talk about is gloom. Now ain't that bad. Nobody cares now, ain't that sad. Don't dig jokes, they ain't no good. Loosen up, baby, just like you should. Get tired of hearing you whine. You get the picture, I made it clear. Boy, you ain't welcome here. You say your man didn't get no booty. That's why I wrote the complainers Boogie Woogie.
William Clarke there with the Complainers Boogie Woogie, which was very Glenn Miller-esque, I have to say, Lance. Nice choice.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, you're quite welcome. Right, anyway, listen, I want to talk about ghosts. I want to know if you guys have ever seen ghosts, if you have any ghostly experiences, and whether you think they're real or you think they're not real. I'm going to start off by sharing a couple of experiences of my own with you. Lance can back me up on this first one, actually. When I lived back in England, I lived in a very old cottage. And according to a friend of mine, who I have to say was a little crazy, there were 3 ghosts in the house, 2 grown men and 1 little blonde girl who would follow me around the house. Now, I never felt uncomfortable in the place. I never had any real problems, but a few odd things did happen. For example, one time Lance and I were just playing around with our guitars and stuff, as we often did, and we'd been out and we bought a whole new collection of fresh plectrums, which we'd spread out on the sofa to decide which ones we were going to use. And then at the last minute we thought, let's go out and have a McDonald's. And we did, and when we came back to the house, they were all gone. Every single one of them was gone off of the sofa. Do you remember that, Lance?
I certainly do, which is unfortunate because that's my one and only experience of ghosts, and you've just gone and used it.
I just went and shot you down in flames. I'm sorry about that. I didn't even think about that. A couple of other things happened in that house as well. Before I moved to America, my wife came over to visit me in England a few times and stayed at the cottage with me. And one night we went to sleep, and she placed her earrings down on the floor. And when we got up the next morning, they were gone. No real explanation for that. I didn't have any animals at the house, any cats or anything like that. Now, I think the weirdest thing that ever happened in that house was I would use modern technology, the internet, to talk to my wife. And she'd be at work, and I'd have the computer in the living room in front of the sofa. I'd have it all turned on and ready to go with my messenger on, waiting for her to come home. Now, this particular night, I wasn't expecting her home for a good 4 or 5 hours. And I decided to take a nap, so I turned the monitor off, I turned the speakers off, and I lay down and went for a nap. Turns out she came home early from work, and during my sleep, I dreamt of the little blonde girl that supposedly haunted our house or my cottage, nudging me and telling me to wake up. And I did. I woke up, and I logged on, and sure enough, there was my wife. She'd come home early. And I was talking to her, and I explained that I'd woken up because the little girl had nudged me and told me to wake up. At which point she went very, very white and informed me that when she hadn't been able to rouse me from sleeping by messaging me, she'd actually jokingly said to the little girl, do me a favour and wake him up. And sure enough, within a matter of minutes, I'd woken up. Now, that could be pure coincidence, or it could be something entirely spooky.
Oh, wow, that is a bit strange.
I do have a couple of questions for you there, Doug. Firstly, do you not think maybe having a little blonde girl that follows you around the house that not everyone can see is maybe perhaps just a medical condition?
A medical condition or something wrong in my head, yes, quite probably. I mean, to be honest, I didn't actually know about it. It wasn't until my friend told me about it and explained who was in the house. She was supposedly psychic. I'm not sure I entirely believe in that kind of stuff, psychic abilities, but, you know, it explained a few of the weird things that went on, I suppose.
And my second question relates to your first story there about you and Lance and the plectrums and the deciding to go out for a McDonald's. Do you not just think the plectrums disappeared because after you left they got up and thought, well, hang on, these guys have just spent half an hour trying to decide which one of us they want to play and then gone for a McDonald's, let's find somewhere a bit more interesting?
You mean they felt unloved and left us? It was probably more the fact that they thought, God, these two are bad musicians, we don't want to be part of that, and left.
Just as credible as there being ghosts, really.
Yeah.
So you're a non-believer then, Darren?
I am a non-believer, but unfortunately I have some unexplainable things happen. When living in the last house, Barbara and I both felt somebody sit on the end of the bed, but there was sufficient light in the room to see that there was nobody there, and both the kids were in bed and fast asleep. And we also smelt smoke. Sufficiently that I went and had a look in the kids' bedrooms to see if they were smoking, and again they were both fast asleep, and as I left the room the smell of smoke wasn't in the hall or in either of the rooms, so we couldn't explain where the smell came from. We didn't know who sat on the end of the bed. The other one was I'd gone to bed and Barbara was watching something on television, and Barbara heard somebody walk across the landing. The kids were both at friend's house, so Barbara thought it was me and came up to see what I was doing, and I was in bed. She went downstairs and again heard somebody walking across the landing, and there was nobody there. Now, whether it was just the sound of the central heating pipes expanding that sounded like footsteps or something like that, don't know, but I'm not really convinced that it was ghosts, to be honest.
Now,
I mean, that's it. Is your ain't? Is your house detached or is it joined?
It was a joined a place, but I know that the next door neighbours don't smoke.
Yeah, I was more thinking of the footsteps, because of course, particularly in older houses. I mean, my cottage, it's 200 years old, and it used to make all sorts of weird noises in the dead of night. So,
plus
and I think that's often the case. I think people, personally, I'm a believer, but I do think people, particularly believers, tend to jump to conclusions too quick. The slightest thing, and it's immediately paranormal without bothering to seek any normal or scientific explanation.
To take that further, I actually have been to one of the supposedly most haunted pubs in the whole of England, which is a place down in Ashford, and I went there with a couple of my friends and stood at the bar. The girls said, "Oh, can you feel that cold draft down your back?" And I said, "Yeah, the door's open."
Well, interestingly, you say that about the most haunted pub in Britain. Over here we have Most Haunted, which of course is very popular in the UK. We also have another show called Ghost Hunters, which is kind of the American version of Most Haunted, only it's a lot more scientific. It's less sort of vaudeville theatre and more a scientific approach. But every time they go to England, wherever they go, it's the most haunted house, the most haunted castle, the most haunted pub, and every single place they go to is always the most haunted.
I think Americans must be...
So, could you give us a measure as to how you know how haunted a building is? Is it the amount of ghosts? Is it the amount of activity from a certain ghost? And the amount of ectoplasm found? What are they using to measure?
I would guess it's probably something like the amount of reported sightings or something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so, probably. But then again, something that I find interesting about both of these programs, certainly Most Haunted over here is on the Travel Channel. Now Ghost Hunters is on Sci-Fi. But nonetheless, a lot of the times they'll go to hotels and stuff like that. Now, what could be better advertising for a hotel or a guest house than to say, "Oh, we're extremely haunted, we have all this activity going on, and we can let you stay in this special room that's supposedly the most haunted room in America or England." I often wonder how much of it is just a bit of a marketing scam rather than actual ghosts.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember, obviously you do remember, I'm sure you do, just before you left, we did our own Most Haunted in Your Cottage?
Oh, absolutely. That was you, me and Sam, I remember that.
Yeah. Now, we did have a few sort of potentially unexplained events happen there, didn't we? We definitely caught some orbs on film, didn't we?
Yeah, and the interesting thing was, if you remember the orb down in the cellar. Now, a lot of the time, orbs, they just seem to be floating balls across, not balls, of course.
You're always talking about your balls, aren't you?
Which is, I tell you what, mate, it becomes an obsession after a while. Yeah, they're floating balls across the front of the camera, which, they're dust, they're bugs, whatever. But the one we caught in the cellar I found particularly interesting because if you remember, we actually watched it materialise out of one of the steps.
That's right.
And then come up and float away. Now, it could, of course, still be dust or bugs, but that was a little interesting, that one.
I remember that cellar was 100% pitch black, wasn't it? When all the lights were off, there's no light getting in there at all. The trapdoor was covered with carpet that covered the cracks, and there were no windows or anything in there, so it was as dark could be.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And creepy. Any dark place is creepy, so it was definitely creepy down there with all the lights up.
But we're all three of us were sort of sitting down there, and we're doing the whole sort of talking to whoever is possibly out there, and all of a sudden there was this almighty crash, wasn't there, as half of the stacked up junk fell over, and we immediately shit ourselves, I think would be a fairly accurate explanation of what we did.
And this week's prize
if
for
I
taking
remember.
away the tag for Clean Podcast goes to Lars.
Thank you very much.
Do you know, right at I forgot all about that. Right at the beginning of the show, I was just going to say fuck to get it over and done with.
But yeah, I mean, we were absolutely terrified at that point, weren't we? Until we realised that it was actually stuff that we'd moved to have a place to sit. So we disturbed it, obviously hadn't put it very securely, and it slid. But it does nothing to sort of calm your nerves, does it?
No, and I mean that's a whole big thing about ghosts and all that. An awful lot of it is psychological suggestion. So you go into a place and somebody says to you it's haunted, and it's already creepy, it's dark, there are corners that you can't see around. Your mind's going to play all sorts of games on you. I mean, if you've ever seen a guy on television called Darren Brown, he's a psychological illusionist, and he messes with people's minds in that way. And it's just amazing the things that people will believe they've seen even when they clearly haven't, you know. And I think a lot of haunted things can be explained perfectly normally, but I have to say the couple that happened in my cottage, to me they're beyond explanation. It could just be pure coincidence. The plectrums, I have no idea where they went. We never did find them, and the same with my wife's earrings. We have no idea where they went, and we never found them.
Now, although I don't have an actual physical ghost story myself in that kind of way, other than the most haunted and the plectrums that we did, my sister, on the other hand, was visiting one of my aunties, and this is back when she was sort of 5 or 6, probably a little older, and she sat on the stairs playing with the family cat. And these stairs, it was like an old Victorian terraced house type thing, and the stairs were in the hallway. The only two doors from that hallway were the door to the outside and the door to the front room. So excuse me, she finished playing with the cat, and the cat sort of ran off and went into the front room, and she followed it in, and my parents are in there and my auntie's there, and my sister walked in and said, where's the cat gone? And my auntie said, what cat? And she said, oh, you know, your cat. She said, my cat died 4 or 5 weeks ago.
Oh, really? That kind of sent goosebumps up my back.
Yeah. So, and to this day, we've never explained. There was no other place that the cat could have gone. It didn't run upstairs. The front door wasn't open. The only place the cat could have gone was into the living room, which then had a door through into the sort of back room kitchen. And it just sort of obviously ran through the door and disappeared, which was incredibly freaky. So my sister is a big believer in ghosts.
So what about you, Lance? Do you believe?
I do 100% believe.
What is it that gives you that conviction? What makes you so sure?
Difficult to put my finger on it. I just believe that there's more to it than that. There's so many stories that are unexplained, and absence of proof is not proof of absence.
Good quote, Lance. Good quote. I like that one. And what about you, Ben? We know Darren's standing on ghosts. How do you feel about them?
No, I'm very much. I think it's all complete bollocks. Yeah. It's not so much that I have a completely closed mind. You know, I accept that there's probably lots of things in the world that can't be explained. Although I think your fucking mental is probably a fairly good explanation for everything. But no, I think probably I don't want to believe. I don't want them to be real, so I don't believe in them.
What is it that bothers you about them being real?
Well, I'm very careful about who sees me naked, I'll be honest.
Good answer.
I think that's an interesting point, actually. I don't want to believe, therefore I don't, because that's kind of the, there are two sides to every Schwartz, and that's the flip side to that one, because a lot of believers who do want to believe only because they want to believe, not because they have any good reason to believe. So that's an interesting point, Ben. I like that.
But isn't it basically burying your head in the sand? I don't want to believe, so it's not there.
No, well, I'm not saying that I have a completely closed mind. I'm not going to completely deny proof if it's put in front of my eyes, but I've never had any proof. I've never experienced anything, and I guess until or unless I ever do, I'm not going to believe because I don't particularly want to.
So you're quite happy to believe when somebody proves it to you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fairly logical kind of guy. So I guess some things that if something's completely unexplainable, if something happens and I can't find any scientific reason for it, then it frightens me because there's no way I can explain it. And so I guess that's the reason for not wanting to believe.
Fair enough. What about ghost photos and that kind of thing that you've seen? That I know there are an awful lot of fakes out there, but there are quite a number of photos that haven't been disproved or have no explanation. They haven't been tampered with, and something is there. Isn't that a form of proof?
I have to say, actually, jumping in here as a believer, I've yet to see a ghost photo that I find entirely convincing. I have to be honest. I've seen an awful lot of ghost photos, and I'm not convinced by any of them. And I mean, your point about the fact of would you believe if it was proven to you? Well, if it was proven to him, he'd have no choice but to believe, would he?
All right,
but yeah, I know.
Ass.
I mean, I've seen no ghost photos yet that I don't think can be explained by either camera issues or environmental issues or even electromagnetic fields, lodestones, whatever. So.
Going back to the whole orbs thing, I'm going to wrap the topic up in a minute. But going back to the whole orbs thing. Do you think that there's been a marked rise in orb recordings, both on video and on camera, as digital technology has come up? So
there's been an increase in general in photography and video because of digital. And therefore, if you're taking more pictures, you're gonna find more anomalies. But
well, plus, I mean, you could always argue the point as well. I mean, it's often argued that orbs generally tend to only show up on digital cameras. You do get a few with your regular film cameras, but it's mostly digital cameras. Now, that's partly, I suppose, because most people have digital cameras these days, and the film cameras are becoming less common. But a lot of people will also argue that, it's just the way digital cameras work. They tend to make it look like these things are there. But you could always also argue from the other point that perhaps digital cameras are simply more sensitive to these things, because of the way in which they work. They're more prone to picking them up.
I mean, it's especially with the video side of orbs. Most orbs are filmed using the infrared cameras, aren't they?
Yeah.
Which, to me, I've always been a bit sceptical with orbs, whether it is dust, and it's just the way the dust reflects off the infrared beam.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And interestingly enough, Lance, something I was talking to my wife about last night, we were watching Ghost Hunters International, actually. And I thought about something. All the years that, you and we watched Most Haunted from pretty much the inception. I've watched Ghost Hunters from the beginning. I've watched Ghost Hunters International from the beginning. Now, these guys all wander around with their little $400 or $500 Sony Handycams with night vision equipment attached to it and stuff. And they never catch anything. But they've all got film crews with them. And they've all got film crews who are using $5,000 to $10,000 cameras, professional recording cameras for TV that have night vision capabilities, and they never ever pick anything up. And if anybody was going to pick anything up, you'd think it would be the guys with the real fancy equipment,
because they're likely to be the most sensitive advanced cameras that you can lay your hands on.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, your standard home video camera has one CCD, which is a charge couple device. It's a thing that actually picks up the light and the images, whereas your advanced TV cameras tend to have 3, 4, even 5 CCDs. So you'd think that being that much more posh, they'd be the ones that would pick it up. And they're recording all the time as well, not just while they're ghost hunting. They're recording the setup, they're recording the interview, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so that is sort of fairly strong evidence against it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, very, very interesting. Right, this is Ryan Winford and Living Hell.
I've invested thought into my situation, and still all I've got is a multi-layered complication. I split it into two. One is me and one is you. I've got to work this through. My mind was bearable before your grand reveal. I was comparable with a structure made of solid steel. You've just crashed into the only things I ever knew, how they've been misconstrued. Whoa, I'm so happy for you, now that you found yourself. Can you help me see the truth? 'Cause right now I'm feeling so confused. Where are the answers to the questions that I ask about myself? It's a living hell. For years I've brushed aside these thoughts that have resurfaced. The things we've talked about, it's clear that she does not deserve this. I weigh the options in, I turn them over and again. I don't want to pretend. Whoa, I'm so happy for you. You're making changes that you never thought could possibly be true. My head aches to think they're self-induced. I'll take more ibuprofen, force it down till happiness appears. This could take years.
We're having a bit of a change in the style of music this week, aren't we? Right, a few shows ago, can't remember which Dumbed Down Life it was, but I did an interview with Ben about his entry into the Imagine Cup, and that he'd won the UK round and was just heading into the global round over in Paris. So thought,
Yeah, and I'd just like to jump in and say congratulations on that, Ben. That was a nice achievement. Well done.
Thank you. Thanks.
so as Ben's with us, I think it's only right that we get Ben to tell us his story of his adventure in Paris.
Well, yes, it's quite an adventure. It's a story of heroism and well, it's not really.
So,
Oh well, it's for anyone that doesn't know, the Imagine Cup is a software competition that Microsoft run every year, and anyone who is still classed as a student can enter the competition, and there are lots of different categories. Myself and a friend of mine called Dominic, who lives up in Manchester, actually entered this competition with a bit of software that we designed. We went through a couple of rounds in the UK, and we won the UK finals, and we went off in June to the worldwide finals in Paris. So that was really quite nice. We didn't win in Paris because everyone was so much better than us. But by winning and going on to compete at the international stage, we at least did better than the England football team this year. So that was something to be a little bit proud about there.
sorry, go on, Doug.
I was just going to say, did you rank at all, Ben? Where did you come in?
He ranks very highly in Rome, you know.
Oh, good Lord. Do you know, as soon as I said that, I thought, I wonder if Lance is going to get that. And he did. Well done, Lance.
No, well, only in the shower at the hotel. When you're sharing a room, it's kind of inconvenient. No, we were ranked in the first round of the finals. The final in Paris was split into 3 different rounds. The first round, you give kind of 2 presentations to a panel of judges, and you get feedback from them there and then. Then they pick 12 out of the 200 countries represented there to I don't know if there are 200 countries, but there are quite a lot of people representing quite a lot of teams. Some countries had a couple of different teams. There were about 200 different teams, and there were 12 chosen to go through to the next round. Then there were 6 that were chosen to go through to the next round, and then they announced 3 finalists, 3 winning people. Australia clinched the first prize this year. They created a software system to help farmers manage the amount of water being used in the field by using a mobile device.
Oh, wow.
So, Ben, is it true that you would have done better, but Simon Cowell was on the judging panel?
Well,
How
it's
did he
absolutely
use this
right.
piece of software? It was really horrible.
So Ben, for those of us who may not have listened to the show back then, which I can't imagine anybody not actually listening to the show, of course, give us a quick rundown. Just let us know what your software was and what it did.
Well, me and my teammate Dominic, we created a piece of software. It was like a framework, like a platform that people could build on. It was designed to educate people about the environment. So we aimed it at young people, kind of secondary school age people, and we had interactive games that could be plugged into it and kind of interactive facts so that people could log onto this application. It was web-based. It used a cool new technology called Silverlight, and we just created this framework that could be plugged in different languages, different facts, really localized, and some great games that young people could play and learn about the environment at the same time. It didn't do very well, though.
So did you not get past the 200 team stage, or did you get further and then didn't make the finals?
No, we didn't get past the first round of the finals, but we were up against some people that had some really good projects. So, I mean, we did fairly well, I think, to win the UK round. There were about I'm not entirely sure how many UK teams first entered, but there were 12 teams at the UK final that we actually ended up beating. So, not a bad achievement, really.
And it does still mean that you're the best in Britain.
Yes, well, I didn't really need the Imagine Cup to prove that to me, but now that...
Excellent. There is somebody else in the world with as big an ego as I have.
No, that's not possible, Doug.
It all comes down to how well you wank there, Doug.
I'm sorry. I think I missed what you said there. Would you kindly repeat that?
It all comes down to how you rank, Doug.
Rank, thank you. I just wanted to check that's what you said.
Having a Jonathan Ross moment.
So is it something you'd recommend to any sort of budding students to get involved with? As an
absolutely.
experience?
You don't necessarily have to be a university student either. Even if you're just doing an evening course at college, anything that you're enrolled on as a student means that you can technically take part in this competition. And it's a great thing to be involved in. There are loads of different categories. I mean, next year, the worldwide final is in Egypt, so I'm quite jealous because I'm not going to get to go to Egypt, which is a shame. I always want to go.
You only went to Paris.
And there are some great categories. You can do a photography project, you can do a short film, you can do a bit of software, you can write a game, you can develop a mobile application, you can make a piece of hardware. There are loads of really great things that you can do to enter into the Imagine Cup. If you want any more information about that or to enter, because the entrants have opened for the 2009 competition, just go to imaginecup.com and there's loads of info on there.
Excellent.
So, will you not be entering again next year then, Ben?
Oh, well, I will not be a student. I was only classed as a student because I was training to be a teacher. Now that that's finished, I will no longer be a student. However, because of some very strong ties that I've managed to maintain with Microsoft, I might actually be what they call an industry mentor. So I'll actually be going along to some of the UK Imagine Cup events and helping out the teams that are there. So that'd be quite cool.
Yeah, fantastic.
So, and one of the reasons Ben's up this way, Ben lives in London, one of the reasons he's up here visiting me, is that his father's driving him to the airport on Sunday, because where are you off to, Ben?
Well, Lance, I'm going to Seattle on Sunday. I'm one of the prizes for winning the UK leg of the Imagine Cup was getting work experience at Microsoft Corporation in Seattle. So on Sunday, I'm actually flying out, and for 10 days, I'm going to be working as part of what's called the Popfly project team, which is a new technology that Microsoft has been developing. So I'm actually going to be out there in Seattle working at Microsoft headquarters for.
You're not interviewing for Bill Gates' job then?
Sadly, it's already been filled, but I think, to be honest, they need someone as charismatic and fantastic as me in charge of Microsoft.
to give Steve Jobs a run for his money.
In fairness, I think I'm probably better than Bill Gates and Steve Jobs combined. I've got far better fashion sense for a start.
Is there anything you want to ask, Darren? You've been very quiet today.
No, I've just been listening. It was interesting. I was going to ask about the Seattle bit, but that's already come up anyway. So no, it's good. It's good.
So has Jack left you on your own this week then, Darren?
Yeah.
What was that? I missed that. Sorry.
Well,
I asked him if Jack had left him on his own this week.
Oh right.
Yeah, we had a little bit of an accident with Jack last week. I ended up something funny was said or typed. I ended up snorting Jack Daniels out of my nose. So now that the nasal lining has come back, I'm being a little bit more cautious with it.
Which was something that had us in a fit of hysterics, and I can't remember whether I recorded that bit or not.
No, Leonie was listening.
Leonie was listening, and that was very funny. Right, I think that just about wraps us up for this week, doesn't it? Oh no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't actually. We're going to go on to the feedback details in a minute, but we have had a piece of feedback, and we finally got a voicemail, which I'm desperately trying to open now, and it's using Real Player, so it will take about a week for it to open. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I know.
So come back next week.
Yeah, because I was incredibly unorganised.
Hello, Jack. This is Dave from the podcast. Getting really fed up with you guys saying that nobody leaves your bloody message, so I thought I'd just send you one so that you couldn't say that again. And the wife says hello as well. Great show. Hope you win. Boulder, lost count, and you record for us. Back.
So yes, did you hear that?
Yes, who was that from? I didn't quite hear who it's from.
That was from Dave.
Dave, thanks so much. I actually get feedback when I'm on the show. I feel loved again.
Now, I do like the slogan at the end, you record for us.
Oh, okay.
For those who don't
can we
get...
have that?
yeah, I'm pretty sure we can. For those that don't get the reference, it's back to the daily source code again. And his current signing off thing for all of his listeners is they work for us. He's going on this whole thing about governments and that we should remind them that they work for us. So Dave is... Sorry? V for Vendetta, yeah. So I think Dave's trying to remind us that we record for you. And if you'd like to send us a voicemail, you can call us on 07092 274 759, or you can email us, Doug,
at ddl.podshow@googlemail.com.
And for those of you who are not listening live on our chat room, you can go and visit us at our website, which is, Darren,
www.dumbeddownlife.com.
and you can follow us on Twitter, and our username is dumbeddownlife. Well, thanks for listening, and thank you to Doug, Darren, and Ben. That was it, Ben, sorry.
It's quite all right. I'm used to people not remembering my name when I'm sat pretty much next to them.
There's a wall in between us. Shut up. Now, Ben might be coming back a little bit more regularly. We've just had a bit of a discussion, and at some point in the near future, Darren will be disappearing on us for a good number of weeks. When he finally gets around to moving out to the States, he's not going to have an internet connection for a while. So Ben might be stepping into the breach a little bit more often.
I'll try
maybe
and
we can have a...
There you go.
Thank you, Ben. I was going to say maybe we could have a radio star thing, and we could have the callers ring in and vote for whether Ben stays or Darren stays.
Yeah, there's only room for 3 of us, so send your emails. Tell us who you don't want. It's an X Factor thing.
I think we'll try very, very hard to fill your shoes there, Darren, but that might be very difficult given the size of your penis.
On that note, I think it's time to say goodbye, isn't it?
Goodbye.
We'll see you all next week.